Venerable Ajahn Khao tended to encounter dangerous situations in connection with elephants more than any other animals. Soon after the previous encounter, he met another large elephant in the Mae Bang district of Lambang province, and this time he was almost unable to save himself. This one was a true wild forest elephant, and not one that had lived with and been looked after by people like the previous one. It was at night, and Ajahn Khao was walking Jangama when he heard the sound of an elephant crashing through the jungle, breaking branches and making a lot of noise. It was rushing towards him, getting closer every minute, and there was no time for him to run away from it. Then he remembered how forest elephants are usually afraid of fire, so he quickly left the Jangama path and went to get all his remaining candles from the place where he was staying. He then stuck them into the ground all along the sides of his Jangama path, and lit them as fast as he could. To any person who saw it, this would be a beautiful, peaceful sight, but it is hard to say how an elephant will react to it. By the time he had finished setting up the candles, the elephant was almost upon him, giving him no possible way of escape. All he could do was to set up a true resolve, Satya Atirthana, that the supernatural power of the Lord Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha might come to help and protect him, a servant of the Lord Buddha, against this huge elephant. By that time the elephant had arrived. Stopping about 2 meters away from him at one side of his Jangama path, it stood there without moving, its ears spread out. It was clearly visible in the candlelight, its huge body appearing as large as a hill. Meanwhile, Ajahn Khao started walking Jangama, pacing back and forth, as if he was not concerned about the elephant at all, although in fact he was so afraid of it that he could hardly breathe. When he first saw it charging towards him, so strong and aggressive, he focused his attention solely on Buddha, and held on to it tenaciously as the guarantor of his safety. Apart from that, he thought of nothing else. He did not even let his thoughts go out to the giant elephant as large as a hill, which had come to stand by the side of his Jangama path, for he was afraid that his chitta might slip from Buddha, which was his best refuge at that time. Buddha and the chitta then became one and the same thing, until the heart lost all fear, and there remained just knowing and the repetition of Buddha, which were blended into one. Meanwhile, the elephant just stood there like a mountain, looking at him without fidgeting or moving, its ears spread wide as if to indicate that it was not ready to accept any friendly advances. This accorded with the manner in which it charged towards Ajahn Khao when it first approached him, coming straight for him without hesitating. It acted as though it intended to crush him to death. But when it reached him, it just stood there like a lifeless dummy. As soon as the chitta and Buddha went inward and came together, becoming one and the same thing, Ajahn Khao lost all fear. In fact, he felt positively bold and daring, confident that he could have walked right up to the elephant without the least feeling of fear. Having thought about it, he realized that to walk right up to such a wild jungle animal would be an act of carelessness based on conceit, which he shouldn't do. So he kept on fearlessly walking Jangama in competition with the standing elephant, as though nothing could happen that would be any danger to him. The elephant must have stood there for about an hour, by which time the candles were almost finished. Some had already gone out, and the rest would not last much longer, when the elephant backed away, turned round, and walked off by the way it had come. It then went looking for food in the forest around that area, where it could be heard breaking branches and treading on dead wood, making a lot of noise. This was the first time that Venerable Ajahn Khao saw for himself the extraordinary power of the chitta and Buddha. He was faced with a critical situation without any way to escape or hide, so there was no alternative but to face up to it using these methods. If he died, it would be only because there was no way to avoid it. This experience made him fully confident that no matter what happened, if the Chitta and Butto became intimately blended together in a natural way, nothing could possibly do any harm to him. He said that he became absolutely